Hello everyone, how are you all doing? I've had to do a quick last minute change here. This was originally going to be me talking with somebody who invited me to talk with them on their Rumble channel called Revealed. They run a Facebook group called Revealed as well, which has about 1,500 subs, and he has a Twitter account with about 700, and I think he streams on there too. But we agreed to do this maybe a month ago or so for 5 p.m. Eastern time, um, which is 10 p.m. for me. But well, I have been trying to get in touch with him, and he's not answered. I think he may have got his times wrong. I'm not sure exactly, but I've had no correspondence back, and he said he would get in touch with me before the show, and he hasn't either. So maybe he's forgot, or something's happened where he's not able to do it. But either way, I'm not going to be able to waste this time or go too late, like I said, because it's going to be midnight. So I'm afraid I'm probably going to have to cancel on him now. But I didn't want to waste this time, which I put aside to do the live. So I thought I'd do a last minute change, and I've turned it into a live Q&A instead, to just have a bit of a back and forth with you guys. Maybe say hello to all the new subscribers too, and answer any questions people might have about some of the research I've done on the clowns, because I know I've had a huge influx of subscribers come over to me due to Mind Unveiled, doing a summary on my work, which was released maybe a few days ago. So it might be nice to talk with all these people as well. And obviously introduce myself so they can get to know who I am and have a bit of a back and forth. So yeah, how are we all doing, guys? Let's just look in the chat here. I'll change the webcam over. There we go, so you can all see me. And yeah, so we got Vibes. Good to see you. Wendy, thanks for being here. We've got our mods there in the chat, our regulars. Watcher, thanks for being here. We've got Health Savvy. Hello. Hello to you as well. It's a new name. Gabriella, thanks for being here. Pepe HGF, good to see you as well. Right, brilliant. So we've got some good regular faces in here. We've got a few people in the chat. While I've got you guys here as well, while I'm here, if you haven't heard already, I have started a Rumble channel, and I have been doing the painstaking work of transferring manually all my work from YouTube to Rumble. And if I share the screen with you here, you can see the channel. I'll just have to zoom out a little bit, because I normally have this zoomed in to deal with um, when I'm on people's shows, just to get the camera right. But here it is. I'm on Rumble now, as you can see here. The links are in the description below, so go and check it out. But yeah, I've uploaded a lot of videos on there already. I think I've got a third of the way through so far. There's still a lot. Oh, so much more. So much more I have to do on this thing. But I have been doing the work of uploading all my videos worth uploading, all the long shows on there. I've done all the Nephilim clown videos, as you can see here. Here's the entire collection. They're not necessarily in order because it was all dependent on when they decided to actually appear after uploading them and processing. But they are all there. They were some of the first videos I uploaded. Oh, we don't need to play that. Yeah, so all the Nephilim clan work is now backed up on there as well. So you can go and watch the entire series there. My first video was this one here, which is the 15-minute summary of my entire theory, which I did on a show with Eyes on the Right. I explained it quickly on there to her, I think. But yeah, all my work's slowly getting uploaded. I think I need to add all the Truth or Therapy sessions on there now. All 53 episodes are going up next. All my collaborations and podcasts visits so far have been uploaded onto there as well. So I'm going through them all bit by bit, but I have about 350 videos to get through, and then I'll have to upload all the Millennial Kingdom stuff too. But yeah, guys, go and follow this. This is just in case YouTube decides to rip the rug out from under me, as they have a tendency to do with channels in our particular arena. I'm sure you're all aware of this. I figured it's probably wise to have a failsafe there. So my viewers, my loyal subscribers who have been with me for a while can still find my work once YouTube makes me go silent, if that ever happens. So I thought it'd be pertinent to start this. And surprisingly, they've actually been getting views straight away, more so than I anticipated. I thought these would just sit here, getting nothing. But they're actually getting quite a few little views, which are fair enough, you know. Obviously, only 162 followers on there so far. I know it's a bit of a smaller platform, and that will take a while. But it tells me here whenever people do join, and people have been steadily joining. It was like 1 minute ago. I've got someone else here. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep feeding this into videos I do from now on, letting people know that there is an alternative platform they can go and follow my work. And once I've got everything uploaded, whenever you see a video uploaded on YouTube, it will also then get put onto here afterwards as well. So there'll be two places now I'm posting everything. I already do have an Odyssey account, which is linked to YouTube. So anytime I do upload onto YouTube, it does automatically go into Odyssey as well. I think that's a bit of a smaller platform that doesn't really have much of a following either. But it's good to diversify, shall we say. Yeah, sorry guys, just drinking some chamomile tea there so I can wind down while I'm talking to you guys. But yeah, there you go. So if you haven't already, check the link in the description. I think it's there. I'm not sure if it works for lives actually. Let me just check. Video details. It's not. It's not there. Sorry. So we'll copy that. We'll add that there to the link to the Rumble. Let's get. There we go. And we'll save that. So yeah, the link is definitely there now. Go and check it out. Make sure to subscribe to that, and it'll really help me out, guys. I really appreciate that as well. And it's good just to get that built up while we're doing all this. So yeah, let's check the chat. See who we've got in now. We've got 83 people in. Brilliant. So it's growing now. That's good. We've got the regulars in, which is great to see. I'll just get that aspect ratio so it's a bit better. Excellent. And we'll put the webcam back on. Excellent. So how are we all doing? Anyone got any questions? Any newcomers got any questions at all about what's going on with the clown theory? Let's talk about the clowns, because I've been swimming in pre-tourism for so long. I've been sharing a lot of videos on the Millennial Kingdom theory. You know, I've detracted a little bit from my main body of work, which is the Nephilim history and the aesthetics of the Nephilim and ancestor spirit culture worship. I'll admit, you know, I've been focusing a little bit on the other stuff for a bit, but it's just so fascinating, you know. I just got very excited about this other topic, and I guess in a way maybe I needed a break from the clowns. I've been doing this for like 8 years now, you know. So I thought, you know, I'll dip my toes into end times theology, and let's bring this back to the clowns today, shall we? Have a bit of talk about that. My wife, Keely, has posted the link there in the chat to Rumble as well, if you guys are interested, just to make it a little bit easier. So let's see what we've got going on. I think I see a question there from Gorton. Question: isn't it a bit on the nose with mainstream presenting clowns as evil over and over and over again? This world inverts the truth every chance they get. Thoughts? So what you're trying to imply there is that the truth is that clowns are good and they're trying to make them seem evil. Well, the honest truth is, for the majority of the history of the clown, through circuses up into the 20th up to the recent 21st century, clowns have actually been a good thing, presented as something fun for the kids. It is only recently have they decided to externalize the hierarchy, I would say, and show us that the clown is actually demonic in its nature and origins. It's more of a case of getting us to accept that as normal and understandable and okay, rather than having to slip it through the back door as something harmless and innocent. So I'd say the inversion doesn't now mean that clowns are good and they're tricking us, if that's what you're trying to imply. It's more them telling us the clowns are demonic. The clown is a representation of demons. Yet you, the people, are still tacitly and willingly dressing up like the clown every year for Halloween, you know, and you've accepted the clown as something fun and evil. It's getting us to accept the evil is where they're at now, because the aim of any controller or psychopath to control people is to give them your mind, so they're on the same wavelength, and that's kind of what they're doing to us. They're turning us into perverted weirdos, just like them, by getting us to be attracted to, interested in, and accepting of the clown in its demonic form. The end goal of that is it creates stronger channels, because the more people they can get dressing like clowns, the more channels they can open up to for the Nephilim spirits to enter into our bodies. You dress like the thing to channel the thing is what all ancestor spirit cultures do. That's the practice. Um, some of them believe, ignorantly, I have argued, that if you dress like a demon, you scare away the demon. But most other places understand, no, you dress like something to bring it into yourself, to strengthen a connection to the spirit realm. That's the truth behind it. So I think they want people dressing like demonic clowns for fun, thinking it's cool and interesting, for the sole purpose, hidden in an occult manner, to open more gateways and channels into people's bodies more easily. So I hope that kind of answers your question. They're my thoughts on that process. Clowns have never been a good thing from their original inception. I've explained thoroughly throughout my work the literal origins of the clown are a representation of the demonic. First, the wild men of Europe, and then secondly, the Rakshasa demons of India. Specifically, that's where they come from. So they've always been demonic in their inception, but they were introduced to the public initially as harmless and fun and wacky and goofy and silly, never explaining the demonic origins to the public. Today, they're externalizing the clown's true demonic nature by representing it as demonic in all media now. They're revealing that truth, but that's kind of how the occult works. They come in through the back door as harmless, and then they reveal themselves for what they truly are. But by that point, we've been programmed, desensitized enough to accept them for what they truly are. So then they can get away with doing what they want to do, and their occult practice is more public and open. So there you go. There's a bit of my thoughts on that question there. Do we have any other Jukalax? Oh, dude, I think you'll thrive on Rumble. Maybe we'll see. We'll see. It's a new platform. There's some things on there I need to get my head around. It's a little bit different from YouTube. What I have not done is there is an option to sync. So whenever I do upload onto YouTube, the video will automatically go straight to Rumble as well. And I do believe they will automatically transfer all my videos across that I've already uploaded as well. However, getting all conspiratorial about it, I actually looked into this, and there's things that people on forums are saying don't do it, because YouTube will penalize you if it knows you've connected your accounts to Rumble, because YouTube will see that as you have just joined their rival, their enemy, in a way, their competitor. So they'll stifle your views on YouTube as like a punishment, like a shadow banned type punishment. If you link your accounts, it knows then that you're you know, going to the enemy, so it'll punish you for it inadvertently. So they say manually upload your videos separately from YouTube, and they'll never know. The algorithm will never figure it out, and you'll never get put on YouTube's list, and then your videos will still maintain it's getting their views type of thing. So I thought that was interesting. So I'm doing it the long-winded way, and to be fair, it's a quick process for me, because I can download all my videos I've uploaded to YouTube straight from YouTube as the creator, and they compress it to the point where it's actually a really small file size. So I upload a video and it's like 5 GB, high quality 1080p, or 4K. I can download it at 1080p straight from YouTube, and it'll only be like 120 megabytes. That's a drastic decrease, but the quality is still really good. So it's actually really quick to upload them. It takes no time at all to upload like a 100 megabyte video, So I am like smashing out like, I don't know, 20 videos every half an hour, just getting them onto Rumble one after the other, copy and pasting all the information from YouTube straight across. So I'm hoping by the end of the month I'll have all my videos up to date on there, my entire back catalogue, and then all the new ones consistently on there as well. Maybe I can figure out how to dual stream on Rumble and YouTube at the same time, but again, I'm just I don't know. It's going to be a learning curve. It's a whole different system. All right, what else have we got, guys? Do we have any more questions? Paul, do you still believe there are still Nephilim who exist in inner Earth? Says Mitty. Well, yeah, I think there are subterranean creatures which are perhaps reptilian in nature. I mean, that's hinted in all media throughout all of history. People have talked about the reptilians who are underground and the subterranean race of reptilian type people. But I would argue, if that's what you're trying to get at there by talking about inner Earth, maybe the Agartha symbol as well, if you go by the Hollow Earth theory, that there's this subterranean civilization with entrances in the poles, perhaps. I don't know which angle you're coming at it from there. Admittedly, I've heard many of them, but as far as it goes for subterranean reptilian creatures, it seems like there is precedence that they may be existing, because the media is constantly going on about that and making films about it. One that always stuck in my mind was, I think one called the Descent, but then there's another one called Midnight Meat Train, which is just ridiculous. But the plot twist at the end, spoilers, is that the murderer who's killing people on this train is not actually a bad guy. He's murdering people and butchering them like meat and hanging them on hooks on this train to feed the subterranean race of reptilians to stop them from surfacing and killing all the humans. It's like a sacrifice, But there's loads of films like that. And I think they're hinting at this thing that there's like a race of hybrid reptilians. Now, get this, they're not actually Nephilim. So this is where I'm going to give you a bit of information that I've learned. Nephilim are a very specific type of creature. They are a hybrid between an angel and a human woman. So you get this psychedelic clown-looking thing as a result of that, which I've explained on my channel. There was a period of time, and I've explained this a few times, there was a period of time after the original Nephilim were killed. So just before the flood, the Nephilim actually killed each other off in wars. And that was a punishment for the Watchers who created them, to watch their children kill each other. That was the punishment for creating them to begin with. Now, there were children of the Nephilim. So the Nephilim themselves had children with human women, and they had like a lesser Nephilim child, like a quarter Nephilim, and then a 1/8 Nephilim, like grandchildren going down. So it was getting diluted as it went down. I do think that's where you get things like Bigfoot from, for example, the Elio or the Eliud. But that being said, after that initial war of the Nephilim, where they all wiped each other out, there was a period of time where humanity, just before the flood, decided to mix themselves with animals and create human-animal hybrid creatures. It was their attempt at Nephilimifying themselves to be like the Nephilim. And it was to get an edge, basically, during that time, to have superhuman powers, to become mutants, or, X-Men, used to be men, X-Men. And that's where you get these Mothmen from, or Dogmen, the Silocephales, the werewolves, the any other cryptid you can imagine, to be honest. I think that's where these creatures were created, just this period of time, just before the flood. It's described in the book of Jasher that mankind taught one another the mixing of kinds, and all flesh became corrupted, and with help probably from angels that were still around who were in rebellion. Not the Watchers, because they were bound in chains. Not the ones who created the original Nephilim and mated with women. They were locked away. But I do think there were some angels knocking about who didn't sleep with human women, who weren't knocked away, who decided, okay, well, if we can't sleep with the humans and corrupt everything, we'll teach the humans how to corrupt themselves. And that's where you get this mixing of kinds happening. And I think a race of humans who had mixed themselves with reptilians were created. And that's the subterranean race you're probably referring to there as the reptilians, and they're actually, they used to be human. They're not actually like Nephilim exactly. They're something else. They're like a faux Nephilim, a weaker attempt at creating something like the Nephilim in a sense. I don't think any Nephilim still exist today, really. If they do, there's few and far, so minute and tiny. There's precedence to say that perhaps the royal families and the bloodlines who rule the earth believe themselves to be the descendants of the original Nephilim. There is that. Um, but whether that's actually true or not is up for debate. But it's possible. It is possible. But they are likely the descendants not of the original Nephilim exactly, because they had their own children with human. The more the diluted Eliud I was talking about earlier, it's possible that continued to happen, and it got so diluted to today's age that you couldn't even tell the difference between somebody who was originally mixed with the Nephilim or who wasn't, or maybe it's possible all of humanity by this point is somehow mingled in with this type of DNA and it's kind of unavoidable. Which is why it's kind of, you shouldn't really be thinking too much about bloodlines today and focusing on that, like things like race or bloodlines. It leads nowhere good to start thinking like that. And I think that's why Christ came to save everybody, because we're all corrupt in a truly, not only spiritual sense, but also a physical sense, which is why we need to be born again. And that's why I don't think it's worth focusing too much on that aspect, whether they're still around today. But I will say is their spirits are still here on Earth. When a Nephilim creature dies, a true Nephilim creature, not necessarily. Maybe these humans who corrupted themselves too. Maybe corrupting your flesh like that has detrimental consequences for your soul. Who knows? But when the Nephilim died, the original Nephilim, they became wandering spirits. An example for this, if I just get my book up that I'm writing currently, I'll get the quote up for you from Enoch that explains this so you can know what I'm talking about. Have a quick drink. Right, where is it? So, go to the latest chapter I've been writing here about the Royal Order of the Jesters. I'll share the screen with you now, guys, so you can see. Okay, so this is the book I'm currently writing. If you're interested, the link is down below for the pre-orders for this book. As you can see, I've just finished off chapter 15, and I'm now writing chapter 16 here, which is about the caricature of all the parts of a clown and how they relate to the Nephilim. But when I was writing this, I do believe I gave a quote from Enoch, which is very pertinent to the whole thing. Yeah, so the spirit that runs through these organizations are demonic in nature, and perhaps it is best explained in the Book of Enoch just who the spirits are that these societies intimately work with, and more importantly, how they operate. So, quote, this is from Enoch 5:28 through 30. And now the giants who are produced from the spirits and flesh, shall be called evil spirits upon the earth, and on the earth shall be their dwelling. Evil spirits have proceeded from their bodies, because they are born from men, and from the watchers is their beginning and primal origin. They shall be evil spirits on earth, and evil spirits shall they be called. And the spirits of the giants afflict, oppress, destroy, attack, do battle, and work destruction on the earth, and cause trouble. They take no food, but nevertheless hunger and thirst, and cause offences. So I use that quote there to explain why the Royal Order of the Jesters is so absolutely heinous in everything they do, because the spirits that run through them, the ones they're channeling, are these spirits that cause offences, and cause trouble, oppress, destroy, attack, and do battle and work destruction. So there you go. I just thought I'd explain that quickly, but yeah, the spirits are still here, and they'll remain here till the final judgment at the end of time, where the earth is, well, hate heaven and hell. Well, everything's thrown into the lake of fire, and we have a new heaven and a new earth given to us. Currently, this earth, this corrupted one, where they remain in these astral realms, we'll call it. I call it the plumbing of our universe, the behind the scenes wiring behind the walls, where they're currently trapped, disembodied. All of it will get destroyed in the end. But until then, we have to kind of deal with them. They're still there, and they're looking for an excuse to get back into our bodies to satiate this hunger and thirst, for example. They hunger and thirst, but have no body. They take no food because they can't, because they're disembodied, but still have this hunger and thirst. So they use us and our senses to satiate those hungers and those thirsts and desires and lusts. That's what possession's truly all about. So if they can get as many people as possible dressing like them, it will only strengthen that connection, and therefore give them that ability to use our senses to vicariously experience things, which is all they crave, really. That's all they really want. So yeah, there you go. I give you a bit of a breakdown there, guys. That was quite a lot. Sorry. Let me just quickly put some pictures there of some Nephilim clowns. I'll put a rolling slideshow on just so you can get an idea of some of the things I'm talking about here. But yeah, here's Medusa, for example, one example of an old one. Here's a drawing I actually did years ago trying to figure out what they looked like. And this is based on one of the skulls that were found. You know, the elongated skulls, that kind of added skin to it in a way, and a wide mouth there with some weird looking lips. Bit of a reptilian style skin, maybe has some scales onto it. Got pointed elf like ears there. Um, but yeah, but they would have looked crazy. They would have looked something like this. Very psychedelic looking creatures. Um, yeah, I'll just let that slideshow roll while I talk so you guys can get an idea visually of what I've been talking about and what my work is trying to show exactly. Um, but I hope that basically answers your question about whether or not they still exist. They don't exist physically, but in spiritual form now. True Nephilim. But there are possibly human animal hybrids still on Earth that we call cryptids. So there's the quick answer at the end. I know I went on a bit there, but that generally tends to be what I do. Um, what else is going on here? Let's take the chat a bit more. That's valid. It does seem to be time of revealing for sure, says Gorton. Okay, so I'm glad you like the answer. Uh, Alex Mush, do you think the clowns teach lessons for those who channeled them? Through humour and expressing sins, could they be discovering universal divine truths? No, that's New Age word salad nonsense. They are literally what I just described there. They are the disembodied spirits of a predator that once subdued and utterly destroyed humanity. They placed themselves as kings and rulers over us. They ate us. They were a natural predator against us. They literally were the worst possible thing you could imagine. And now they are just disembodied, stuck in that realm, and they will tell you anything to convince you that they're good and that you should let them in your body, basically. They have nothing to teach you. No universal or divine truths. You're literally just communicating with demons. And I know that sounds like a Christian cop out. Trust me, I know what it sounds like. Oh, that's just too simple of an answer. But it really is a simple answer. And humans, I understand, tend to want to think that, overcomplicate matters a bit more because it makes them feel deep or smart. I think it appeals to ego and pride, perhaps, to think you're getting some kind of divine truths because there's a multifaceted, multidimensional layers to everything, and the answer cannot be simple. It has to be convoluted. But I'm telling you right now, you are literally just communicating with the disembodied spirits of these Nephilim that once existed on the earth as natural predators and subjugators of mankind. They answered to their parents, the watcher class fallen angels, who were also working against God in rebellion to corrupt his creation, mankind. There's a hierarchy to this. We don't wrestle against flesh and blood, we wrestle against principalities and powers, spiritual wickedness in high places. That's Ephesians 6:12, roughly paraphrased. Our war is a serious one, and it's a spiritual one. And if you go to these realms or channel these entities in these astral realms, you're going to a place inhabited by the enemy. Okay, the astral realm itself is a necessary place. It's a part of the earth. It's the warp to the woof of our rug of reality. It's the thing that projects our reality. It's the universal mathematical principles and codes necessary to make what we live in happen. It's a perfectly well created realm of God, but it's currently inhabited with our enemies, which is why we're not supposed to go there and communicate with those things anymore, because all they seek to do is destroy and oppress and cause offences and satiate their lusts and hungers through your body if you should let them. So it's a war zone. Don't go wandering around in no man's land thinking you're learning divine wisdoms and you're so clever and smart that you won't be deceived. Um, that's exactly what they're there to do. And these cultures you're seeing on the screen here, for example, this is the Theym of India. They dress like this. Polka dots, white face, red grin, oddly psychedelic coloured patterns and skin to represent and reflect these entities in the spirit realm in order to channel them. And then the tribes people come around and give sacrifices to it. And the person channeling the demon bites the heads off of chickens and drinks the blood because it is now the demon being satiated within them through the channeling. And then the demon in turn gives them knowledge, wisdom, and other things, and power. It's a transactional thing. Just because we're ignorant of that doesn't mean the practice changes. They work openly with these other cultures, but with us it's occulted, so they have to trick us instead, and they make us think that they're, I don't know, ascended masters, aliens, fifth dimensional beings, time travelers from the future. You name your story, whatever lie they want to tell you, whatever you will believe, they'll tell you. But I've just told you the truth of the matter. Biblical history is no joke. It's our history. It's the story of mankind and humanity, and it's the story of where these creatures come from. Now, I'm not trying to. Obviously, I think a lot of people don't understand. I'm not exactly trying to say that humans are innocent. We're not. We're prideful and sinful by nature. We tend to be power hungry and seek out these things out of the lusts of our own heart to want to be feel like we have something over God or we are better than others in some way. So we're not perfect. We make mistakes and we seek out these creatures thinking they can offer us something that kind of we already have. We're already divine in nature and connected to God if we so choose to take that option. Um, these creatures are charlatans more than anything. They're trying to tell you that they have these answers, which God has already kind of provided for us. So stay away. They're not your friends. DMT jesters are not your friends. I've said this plenty of times. And again, I'm not trying to come across as some dry, boring, drab, typical Christian, everything's just demonic. I'm trying to give you real world facts and evidence here to show you that these things have been running through human culture for millennia. And these things have people have been in communication with these things for a very long time. We know their modus operandi. We know what they're actually up to. We know what their end game is. We know the point. And more importantly now, we know what they actually look like. A true know your enemy situation. They look like clowns. So when you see the clown manifest, run, because that is a physical representation of a serious spiritual thing. It's no joke. Anyway, let's keep going through the chat, see what else we've got there. Um, sorry, guys. Um, is there a connection between DMT machine elves and these demonic clowns? Says Doomsday Cracker. Yes, as I said, they're the same creatures. The jesters are basically the disembodied spirits of these creatures that once looked like clowns when they walked in a physical sense. They're the same thing. The only thing that's in that spirit realm, that astral realm, is the disembodied of spirits of the Nephilim, and possibly the humans who also corrupted themselves after the Nephilim died, as I mentioned earlier. Those who took part in the corruption of the flesh through the mixing of kinds. It is possible that when they die too, they now have the same fate as the Nephilim. They're stuck on Earth and can't leave and are doomed to wander as spirits. So that is possible too. But there's nothing good there. There's nothing they can actually teach you. There's no real divine wisdom to it. It's a con. It's a very long con. They're very sneaky. The serpent is very subtle. Okay. Um, and again, they give you promises of you will be as gods. They'll say it in many different ways and styles with different nuances, but the key message is pretty much always the same from these creatures. Ye will be as gods. It's the same lie promised to Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. The trick being they were already walking with God. How much closer could they be? And Christ came so we can have a way back. And it requires, swallowing your pride, really, and accepting that you are not God. You're not going to be a God. You need to humble yourself and be as little children, and then the true knowledge will be given to you. The things you think you can get from these other creatures, just asking you'll receive from God. He's waiting for you to come and just ask, and you know, don't let these clowns steal your birthright from you. That's kind of also one of the core messages I guess I've always been trying to say in many different ways. I think a lot of people came over from Mind Unveiled, and this is nothing against specifically Mind Unveiled's audience. I know they're very broad and vast and a varying, diverse group of people, but a lot of them are probably not Christian. I know he will have a decent Christian base, but most of them probably come at it from the Gnostic worldview or the alchemical Hermetic worldview. and probably think me as a stupid, ignorant fool in some way, shape, or form who's given into the stupid dogmas of corrupted Christianity. Does he not know that Jesus means Jesus? You know, hail Zeus, or those type of people, you know? And they'll think, oh, well, you know, I don't want to listen to that guy talk about this theory because he's a Christian. I'd rather listen to this other guy talk about it because he doesn't talk about God. But if you're going to talk about the Nephilim and the clowns, I would stress that this is solely grounded in biblical history. This theory wouldn't exist without biblical history. That the Nephilim are strictly a biblical concept, and you can't detach it, unfortunately. You know, for many, that's how I know that's how they would feel about that. But I'm hoping through example I can show you that not every Christian is some dogmatic weirdo who's out there to jam it down your throats. You know, I'm trying to give you real grounded evidence you can perhaps understand to explain to you that yes, the spiritual war we exist in is very real, and we can explain where these entities come from. We do have the history to confirm this, you know, and we have the repeated patterns throughout these cultures to show that the practices still exist to commune with them, and they're identical, pretty much identical across all cultures. Um, but yeah, yeah, a lot of people who may have come over. I've already had a few people saying, "Oh, didn't realize this was a Christian channel. Bye bye," and left instantly. And it's kind of, well, you know, you say you're out there to seek knowledge, but you're not really willing to listen to somebody who may go against your particular beliefs. It's not. I would say how much knowledge are you truly, how much truth are you truly after? Then, if you're gonna dismiss me so quickly based on my religious beliefs. And just to clarify, if anyone is listening as well, I'm not a church. I wasn't raised in a church. I was actually born again 10 years ago at the age of maybe 20. I would have been 23, something like 20. How old was I in 2014? I'm not sure. I'm 31 now, so I'm 21. I would have been 21, 22. I came into it late in the game, you know, and I wasn't raised religious. I was a psychedelic taking, um, tripping, weed smoking every day for 8 years straight type of guy. You know, I was atheistic, then Gnostic type, alchemical, principled, spiritualist type person for a long time. You know, I came from that world, but I was saved by Jesus Christ, and that pulled out of that life through personal experience, which I know I can't really convey to most people who haven't had those experiences for themselves. But I would seek anybody to ask and just find out that it is true and it's all really there. And I've seen real tangible results for my life getting 10 times better after accepting that truth and learning the word and getting to know God and Jesus and his son, you know. So that's me in a nutshell. But you'll find if you listen to most of my work, I'm still not a church going, uh, dogmatic Bible bashing, you know, beating you over the head with the Bible type Christian. And I don't think that's ever going to be my style. I don't think that it's just not the life I grew up in. It's alien to me to be that way. But I certainly, I certainly stand firm in my belief in that. And I can't deny what I've seen. It's one of those situations that I can't deny the, the truths that have come into my life through my own experiences with calling on Jesus to save me from real spiritual attacks, you know, and what has been the things I've learned, the real changes in my life after getting in line with him, you know, real tangible results that I never got when I was searching out there on my own to feel like I was the god of him, I was the master of my own universe type of attitude, you know, that I don't need a savior type of attitude, believing myself to be God. That gave me no real good results in the long run. In fact, it killed me more slowly and slowly through my poor decision making. Because, well, we're all sinners. What can I say? You know, the things we do to ourselves, thinking we're wise, it's all foolishness in the end. You realize. So yeah, you know, a lot of this work I do is grounded in biblical history, and you can actually follow it from its inception. You can kind of follow through my story online that how this happened, and it didn't happen overnight, you know, and this theory didn't manifest out of nowhere. It came from a long process of looking at the occult, studying biblical history, seeing the dots, connecting the dots, digging further, getting into the histories of clowns and so forth. And it took a long time. It took a long time. But in 2016 it clicked. And for the past 8 years I've been building this theory, and it's been getting deeper and deeper and deeper, to the point where I was shocked at just how deep this went myself. I didn't realize just how all pervasive the clown is in culture, and its true demonic roots weren't apparent to me until I actually looked into it, and it all just became ridiculous. Just how much we've been kind of messed with this image and this symbol, and how we're still being messed with it today, and how it's right there in our face in true occult fashion. It's right there. It's been hidden in plain sight this entire time. It's weird. It's trippy. I get it. Anyway, what's going on here? What's going on what's going on in the chat? Have you guys noticed that cats' pupils are like reptiles' pupils? I have, Brad and Karen, actually, and funnily enough, I've just been writing about that. So let me read you my little chapter about the slit pupil and how it relates to the clowns, shall we? Sorry, that's the wrong. Let's do the screen. Bring the book up. And yeah, look, I've got here the, I think it's under the makeup. And yeah, so the common practice of adding a vertical line down the eyelids of a clown is a very odd choice for a harmless entertainer of children. When one looks into the purpose of vertically slitted pupils within the animal kingdom, it becomes apparent that this symbolic motif holds a very sinister undertone. Slit pupils are not distinctly a reptilian feature, which we know the Nephilim possessed, as it is also present in most felines, one type of bird, and even canids such as foxes and coyotes. The reason for this is that the vertical slitted pupils are a predator specific trait, with a unique ability that enhances depth perception. These types of pupils also offer hyperfocus to specific pinpoint regions on a horizontal plane, at the expense of peripheral detail. This enables predators to better gauge the distance between themselves and their prey, and makes them efficient hunters. You most commonly find these types of eyes front-facing on the skull, though this isn't always the case. Horizontal slit pupils are primarily a prey animal trait and positioned on the sides of a skull, giving them a wider spatial awareness of the horizontal plane and possible predators, at the expense of hyperfocus and detail. Clowns who paint the slit down the pupil are mimicking the eyes of a bloodthirsty predator, which is fitting as a symbol for Nephilim features. When I hear only the best hunters in the animal kingdom have slitted pupils, I can't help but think back to Nimrod, who was known to be one of the greatest hunters of all time. As we explored in Chapter 9, Nimrod possibly turned himself into a Nephilim hybrid with the knowledge he discovered after the flood, preserved by the descendants of Cain. Did he possess slitted pupils which aided in his hunting abilities? One can only speculate on such matters, but it's interesting food for thought in light of this theory's observations. It may be pertinent to point out that a cross often substitutes the one slit when it comes to clown makeup. This could easily be a reference to the Nephilim's now undead spiritual nature, in true tongue-in-cheek manner. We often see crosses on the eyelids as a symbol for death in cartoon renditions of corpses. Sorry, guys. I'm using one hand. And the post-flood Nephilim, known as the Rephaim, have their names steeped in words revolving around being healed from death, ghosts, faded ones, and being fallen in true zombie fashion. So I'll end that there. There we go. A bit of a quote about the slit on the eye and how it is a direct reference to the predatory nature of Nephilim. Absolutely. So yeah, thanks for posing that question. It gave me an excuse to read some of my book to you there. But there's an AI image of a Nephilim clown on the screen for you. Have a bit of a drink there, guys. I'm still here despite differences in beliefs, says Dustin Rose. Well, thank you. I appreciate you sticking around, guys. Look, I'm open to any. I'm not here to disparage people for their own beliefs. But I'm here to share what I understand from my perspective. And if take it or leave it, you know. I don't think we have to name call anybody for our beliefs here. I don't think that's fair. I found out about this channel from Nephilim Death Squad. They approach it from a Christian perspective, says Doomsday Cracker. Yeah, the guys at Nephilim Death Squad are really cool. David is actually a member of. I've known David for a while. He runs the Ravens Watch podcast, and I did a show with him originally. Then he started the Nephilim Death Squad not long afterwards. It came from a It's funny because after I talked to David, he invited me to a group chat on Twitter, which was called the Nephilim Death Squad, and it was just a bunch of truther channels, and we're all having a group chat together. It was a bit of fun, a bit of a laugh, you know. And from that, they created a podcast called with Top Lobster. Them two joined together and created a podcast called the Nephilim Death Squad, and they have been smashing it recently. They've just had Gary Wayne on actually, and they've had some great guests on there, and yeah, those guys are doing really good. Yeah, I appreciate those guys. And David's actually in the Telegram. We talk with him quite a lot. If he's listening, hello, David. I hope you're doing well. I need to reschedule with him actually to get him on my show. We were going to do it a couple of weeks ago, but I got deathly ill and was throwing up my guts all for 2 days straight, so I had to cancel on him. But I'm hoping we can rearrange and get him on the channel again soon, so he can join me for a truth or therapy session. That should be good. But yeah, Nephilim Death Squad are cool. If you guys haven't heard of them, go check them out. The Nephilim Death Squad. If spirits can't get you through sin, they'll get you through illness, diseases, infestations, infections, because demons are described as parasitic in nature. That's true. That's true. Um, I think my wife was saying I was 22 when I got saved. Yeah, that's right. Um, Cats seem to chase away evil spirits. Interesting, because don't witches consider black cats a great animal to have as a pet for their connection to the spirit realm? I can't remember the reason exactly off the top of my head. Um, what do you think about people claiming different governments have huge international underground networks that connect to underground city bases and even genetic experiments, even giants and Nephilim? I think there's probably some truth to that. I think a lot of these underground dumb bases perhaps were actually already there, and they didn't build them necessarily, rather than moved into them. Um, we can speculate to the ends of the earth about what's going on down there and whether or not they have creatures down there. Maybe they're interacting with the subterranean races, like I mentioned earlier, the reptilians. There's plenty of talk out there about cloning centers, and the stuff they get up to down there. If you haven't heard any of that stuff before, it gets really trippy. But to be honest, I can only know what I know from the surface. I've never been in one of these things, but it's certainly fun to speculate. But I couldn't tell you exactly whether it's 100% true that they have an underground network of cities. But I've heard the podcast talks about it. I've heard the theories and the ideas. I wouldn't put it past them. Um, are snakes' eyes always slit? Cats' eyes are slits and super round, even white in eyes at times. No, it varies. It depends on whether or not the particular reptile or feline in that region was heavily reliant on hard to catch prey. You know? um, I think most big cats, like a tiger, yes, they would likely have slit pupils, because of the nature of the hunt, that they have to deal with. But you do get a mixed breed of domesticated cats. I've seen cats with round eyes and cats with slit pupils. I think it varies, but primarily a slit pupil, like I said, its purpose is to help with hyper focus for predators when focusing on prey on a horizontal plane. It means they can gauge distance better between themselves and the prey, at the expense of peripheral vision. That's basically how it works. Bob Dylan also admitted in an interview he sold his soul to the devil, says Bill Bradley. He certainly did, I remember that. He also often whites his face up with chalk, or did anyway. Um, Blue eyes see better in the dark. I can read in the dark, basically. Says Jackal. I have blue eyes. I don't know if I can necessarily see better in the dark than others. I wouldn't know. But give my eyes time to adjust, and I tend to be able to see in the dark, from what I can tell, but not immediately. Years ago, I was in an AA meeting when a clown walked in. The oldest AA member looked at him and said, "I hate clowns." That sounds terrifying, Bill. I have tested it others ago. Sorry, guys, I'm just catching up with the chat now. Talking about the color of eyes. The color of eyes. Uh, Dumb's caves and some mines are possibly swallowed up old world architecture, says Freya. Pockets of survival left after the meltdown. I tend to agree with that. I do think a lot of these underground military cities and bases are from the millennial reign, or these are the places that the people built during tribulation to try and get away from the wrath of God, the wrath of Jesus, who came to bring a sword during that time, to hide their faces away from the wrath of God. You know, they hid themselves underground, it says in the Bible. So it's possible that these are those cities, and they intend on using them again. I this is why I think, again, just obviously veering off the clowns here, maybe talking a little bit about the Millennial Kingdom stuff. But right now, you're hearing a lot of talk about rich people building underground bases. I think Mark Zuckerberg was building an underground base, wasn't he? Ready to, and people are pulling millions and billions out of stocks and things like that, and then hiding away currently. And people are pointing to that, saying, "See, tribulation's about to happen. Jesus is about to return. All the rich are hiding themselves from him. They're hiding in the underground bases." And it's kind of like, I feel like they purposely say those things on the news to wind us up. I feel like it's a convoluted, sorry, a contrived attempt at making us think tribulation's about to happen by posting out news articles and news stories about rich people going in building bunkers. It's kind of like they wouldn't announce it if this was the real tribulation. And I feel like they're announcing these things on purpose to get the general public to believe that tribulation is about to happen, because they're about to fake a tribulation event. And they need us to believe that that's the time we're actually in. And in light of the post millennial reign theory, maybe we're not in that time period, and they're just faking it. And like I said, it's funny because praetorism is a big topic right now, and I haven't looked into it. I haven't had time yet to watch all the videos, guys, but I am aware there's a huge thing going on right now. I think, did Dean Odell just do and I believe now you see TV as well. David Carrico and John Pounders just did an expose on the Millennial Kingdom theory and how it's all rooted in, created by a Jesuit, you know what I mean? And none of it's true, and Jesus is about to return, and it's blasphemy to even consider that we're living in the little season. And the argument tends to be, well, a Jesuit came up with it, so it can't be true. And it's kind of like, well, I didn't get my theory, my understanding from the works of that particular Jesuit. I got the understanding that we might be in the little season because Jesus himself said with his own words, he comes quickly. And also, people who were there right next to him would see him return in his kingdom in their lifetime. And even those who pierced him would see him return. I don't think he's a liar. I think he was telling the truth. And just because some Jesuit in the future said these things does not mean it's false. Okay? Just because one person who happens to be a Jesuit also purported the concept that we're in the little season does not then mean that Jesus didn't mean what he meant. It's a weak argument, is what I'm saying, and yeah, but I've yet to look into more of that. I have yet to actually listen to all of these things, but the arguments are getting pretty intense between all the factions, and again, as explained, as like a backdoor Christian, as somebody who wasn't raised with any particular dogma or in a church on the matter, it's not hard for me to consider and accept that we may be in the little season, as it is for other Christians, it seems. I think a lot of other Christians really struggle to consider this concept because they have so heavily invested so much of their time and preaching and effort into the premillennialism worldview that tribulation is about to occur and Jesus has yet to come back. That they are scared to be seen as fools or to lose their congregation or lose their church or or lose credit in some way with the people who pay for them, give them money at the churches. I don't know what it is exactly, and I don't think I don't think they want to accept that they may have been made fools of for so long as well. I think pride can get involved with all these things. It's hard to see. It's hard to know exactly what people's motivations are for utterly rejecting this concept, without even considering it. But we can guess. We can make good guesses, and that's probably the best we can do, really. Um, why were there no female Nephilim, and would have taken themselves husbands from the sons of men and women? Says Samantha Robinson. Well, this seemed to be a huge problem for the Nephilim, actually. That yes, there were no females, and this is the thing. It's something to do with genetics. It seems like the fallen angels can impregnate women, if you get what I mean. They can do that, and they only seem to produce males. Um, and then those male children can then impregnate another human woman and create an Eliud, which is like a quarter version. But it seems like the women who did give birth died during the process because the babies grew so quickly and tear them apart basically and rip them in half, and they bled to death in horrible, painful births and deaths. And there was this issue. In fact, if you read the book of King Og of Bashan, which is written from the perspective of a Nephilim king, okay, um, they have this problem, and they're talking about the serious issue of the lack of women to reproduce with. Okay, the women keep dying, and the Nephilim numbers are so low right now that we need to get our numbers up somehow, but we don't have any women to breed with, and female human women are few and far between during that time. They were hard to come across, and they always died. So it's kind of a problem. And the whole book is about trying to find a solution to that problem. It's really interesting. Well, not interesting. It's horrible, actually, what he goes on about. The guy was obsessed with circumcision. It was so strange, like in a real weird way. And he basically they have this prophecy. These Nephilim entities have this prophecy, of a I think it's a moon child or something like that. I can't remember the name of it now. I must be blanking, but it's basically a woman who will be able to reproduce indefinitely and continue the Nephilim race. Okay, they found one or they created one or something like that, but she was killed by Nimrod or something. And King Og of Bashan basically wrote this book, which you're reading, where he is just raging for like 200, for like 100 pages, how much he hates Nimrod for what he did. Like, and just absolutely just raging and raging for this entire book about how much of a dick Nimrod is, basically, because he ruined their only chance to keep reproducing, because they killed the promised child or something like that, the star child or the moon child. I can't remember what it was called. So yeah, there does seem to be a huge issue. There doesn't seem to be actually female Nephilim, and that's just a product of the way it works, I guess. But they did find a solution, and it says in the Book of Enoch that the women who initially mated with the Watchers, some of them, it seems like many of them were turned into sirens. Now, it seems like this must have been done before they were impregnated, and it seems like to be turned into a siren is to be turned into a hybrid creature. So you can have sirens with wings, half bird women, bird women that fly around. Harpies is another word for that, in Greek mythology. Or you could have mermaids, half fish, half woman, or half serpent, half woman, like the Nagas of India. These are the sirens, okay? And this, I do believe, this was done as a means to create women who could reproduce with the angels, who would survive birth. So they had to genetically engineer the women to be able to handle carrying a Nephilim child. So they were turned into sirens, it says in the Book of Enoch. And we have Greek myths that back up this story from Enoch, and it's Echidna is a prime example. She's called the mother of monsters. And if you look at Greek writings, Echidna was the wife of a particular sea god called Typhon, and she is a quintessential nymph or siren. She has the legs of a snake. She has serpent legs, but the body of a woman. Top half and arms, and of a female human, but she has the bottom half of two snake legs, and her husband Typhon was a half serpent reptilian style hybrid angel being, so a fallen seraphim angel from the sea mating with a siren called Echidna, who's a human woman who's been hybridized. And Echidna gives birth to all the monsters, Chimera, Hydra, the Gorgons. There's loads. There's like 12 of them. There's a list of these ancient Greek myths. Cerberus, the dogs, the three-headed dogs, the guardians of the underworld. But it's also said that she was given a golden palace underground, like a golden dwelling underground where she was looked after. So she was highly prized and by the gods. She was highly actually like considered of high value and importance, that they protected her in an encamped golden dwelling. It's quite interesting. So clearly she was important because she gave birth to more Nephilim. They used her, so they kept her safe. Um, Interesting when the parallels, and the explanations you can get from these Greek myths that just match up with biblical history quite seamlessly, just with different names. So I always found that fascinating, and I think that explains the no women issue. They got around that issue by hybridizing human women to be more Nephilim-esque in order to make them hardy enough to bear the children of the fallen angels, of the Watchers. So yeah, fascinating. And then again, there's precedents for this in these other Greek myths and more fleshed out stories explaining this concept. I mean, a lot of people don't know this, but the sirens or the nymphs, and the Maenads were actually kind of given over as minor gods and goddesses to certain locales like forests or rivers or lakes or ponds or shores. They were the gods of that particular geographical location. So these sirens were rewarded, for being the brood mares of the Watchers, basically, and they were given dominion over places. And they were actually, a lot of people don't know this, but they were actually allowed to sit in on the meetings of the gods on Mount Olympus. So they were of such high usefulness to the gods, plural. So the pantheons, which I believe were the Watchers posing as the creators of humanity, posing as these many gods. They even allowed their harems of hybridized women to sit in on the meetings of the gods on Mount Olympus. So that's quite interesting, isn't it, when you think about it? They were all working together to continue this corruption effort. But yeah, if a woman was just raped by a Nephilim and wasn't hybridized, she would get pregnant, create another Nephilim, sure, but in the process of it growing inside of her, she would just die. So they found workarounds. They found things to do. Um, but yeah, predominantly most Nephilim males, most all Nephilim are born as male. It seems. Um, they invert everything. Have you ever steelman the Little Season idea? I'm curious what the arguments against it are. Says Zach Redacted. Well, I've heard all the arguments against it for like a decade of my life because I have always, for most of my life, as a Christian, I did subscribe to the Jesus is about to return ideology, So I've already been swimming in all of that kind of end times eschatology for so long that I've just been swimming currently in the preterist, it's already over and it already happened worldview. Um, But their arguments so far against it are pretty weak. Not gonna lie, they don't have much. Other than it couldn't possibly have happened yet because there hasn't been 1,000 years of peace on Earth. And it's kind of like you wouldn't know. It's been hidden from you. So the arguments aren't against it, I would say, are pretty much based in ignorance of what the theory actually is, or just a desire not to want it to be true. Knee jerk, no, you're just wrong reactions. That's what I would say so far. Um, it's like they don't know that we too have also believed for many many years what they are currently trying to defend. It's not like we've just come out of nowhere and switched on a limb. It's because there's precedence for it to be true because of the words of Christ Himself, and it's you kind of have to do a lot of mental gymnastics and twisting of Christ's words to make Him mean something He didn't mean. To justify that it didn't happen yet. And it's kind of I feel like we've been doing that for too long now. I think it's time for us to take it at word value. Um, I mean, quickly to Jesus is not the same as quickly to you, says Tracks of Time. One day can be as 1,000 years, remember? Yeah, I mean, there's a time and place for allegory. One day is 1,000 years in the eyes of the Lord in heaven. Yes. But when Jesus is on earth and he's saying, I'm coming quickly to the humans around him, I think he was being literal to them because that's the language they understand. There wasn't a need for metaphor. You know, I think the whole point of describing the 1,000 years, one day is 1,000 years in the eye of the Lord, is to justify and explain that time to him is not the same to us. He is God. But that allegory doesn't then mean Jesus wasn't being literal when he said, I come quickly. Quick, get this word out. Don't seal up the message in this, John. Go and tell everybody what I've told you, for the time is at hand. When he said that, I don't think he meant in 2,000 years. And you've got to you've got to learn to discern the word. You can't just well, God said 1 day's 1,000 years once in His eyes. Therefore, no, you're wrong. It is 2,000 years. I guess it's stupid to think that way. I'm sorry, it really is. It's insulting to the intelligence of the people of the day, and to the intelligence of people like people reading it too. Um, I think people have overcomplicated His words because they have been told that Jesus still has yet to return. And because from their perspective, they can't see how they can see, well, he hasn't returned yet, but it's been 2,000 years. So to deal with that cognitive dissonance, they've come up with these crazy stories, and these crazy explanations, like the gap theory, and like, the 70 weeks of Daniel prophecy, and the gap between the week 69 and week 70 is suddenly 2,000 years. It's kind of like, no. What if it did happen, as he said it would, and it's been hidden from us? That solves the problem. Jesus is no longer a liar. We don't have to overcomplicate the words anymore and make stuff up to try and fill that gap in our minds, and all the cognitive dissonance can disappear finally, and we can make sense of a lot of things that didn't make sense before anymore, just with that slight perspective shift. And you don't have to then lose your salvation or your faith in Jesus. If anything, this should strengthen your faith. And a lot of people then turn to the I think it's in Second Timothy where it's saying people have erred in their understandings and have made people lose faith by saying that Jesus has already returned or the time has already happened, or don't be deceived, that type of thing. But he was talking about two very specific preachers of the day in that context. And those two very specific preachers of that day were saying these things like, oh, no, Christ has already come back and all this sort of stuff. It's already happened. And just because he was referring to those people of that particular time period during that time doesn't mean he was referring to people today. It's very possible there were people just before Christ turned up in that gap between his crucifixion and his ascension and then him coming back in those 50 years or so. Okay. There's possible there were people saying, no, it's already happened. And they were wrong then. But then suddenly, 20 years later, bam, it did happen. And then it's done. And now that verse, that passage, what Paul wrote, doesn't apply to us anymore. It was for the people of the time, specifically when he wrote it. What did Michael Heiser say? What's that phrase? Was it something like, the Bible was written for us, but it wasn't written to us? Okay? It was written to the people of that time period for specific things that were happening to them. And we interpret the words today and extend it to us today in ways that aren't necessary. Now we can take the gospel as truth, and we can glean from the entire thing, the words written in there, our means to salvation. But like I said, when Paul was saying there are people out there right now currently saying to you that Jesus already returned and making people lose faith, he wasn't talking to us today. That's not a thing we needed to apply to us today. So people like, me or Alpha Talks or other channels who were suggesting that maybe we're in the little season, Paul wasn't talking about us when he said that. Do you get what I mean? Like, he was talking about two very specific people of that time. So I don't know how I can I don't know if I can keep saying that over and over again so people understand, but I know there are still going to be people in the comment sections who are not going to understand, or are just not going to listen to what I'm trying to say there in any way, shape, or form. And I guess it comes down to cognitive dissonance in many ways. I don't know how else to explain it. Anyway, guys, any more questions? What have we got? How long have we been going for? We've been going for just over an hour. So let's see what else is going on. I'm just going to quickly check something over here while I'm waiting. I'm just going to have a quick drink. Sorry, guys, just quickly checking something there. Okay, right, coming back. Right, let's check the chat. What's going on in the chat, guys? Let me know. Dan B. Hey, Paul, it's Daniel from Revealed. I messaged you. Lord willing, we can catch up and make it happen. Ah, okay, yes. Sorry, let me just check my emails. Oh, I see. Okay, so we had a bit of a miscommunication there. Sorry, sorry, I didn't message back to confirm. Right, we'll rearrange, Daniel. Don't worry about it. Sorry, I assumed we settled it, and maybe I should have messaged back saying, okay. Breakdown in communication is what caused the podcast not to happen. I get it. Yeah, we'll reschedule, Daniel, for sure. I think next Wednesday should be all right. Let me just check my calendar. I am pretty booked up, unfortunately. Well, not unfortunately, but I don't want to overbook myself either. Okay, I am currently free next Wednesday. So let's do next Wednesday then, Daniel. Is that okay? Just say yes in the chat now if you're okay with doing next Wednesday, Dan B. And I will put you in for the same time in a week. So you just let me know. If you want to email me to confirm that, and we can do that on the 13th instead. Sure thing. There we go, guys. Jay Jenners, hey bro, new subscriber here. Wanted to know, would you rather watch your tree grow or knee grow? Was that just I don't know. I don't know what was going on there. Was that your attempt to get me to say something? I don't know. How do you guys cleanse your bodies from toxins and parasites? That's a good question. I've often wondered about doing a parasite cleanse, and many people have given me many advice, different bits of advice on doing that. But it's just one of those things I've not had time to do. But I'm also interested in knowing how to do all those things. So Bill Bradley says, what about the Mount of Olives? This mountain range hasn't been split in two yet because Jesus hasn't set foot on it yet. He hasn't returned. Well, Bill, it's possible that what you call the Mount of Olives in that specific geographical location is not the true geographic location everything actually happened in the biblical history. We've been lied to about geometry too, and lots of people have done a lot of great work on that. So where the cameras are pointing things today, where the cameras are pointing today, saying here's where it all went down 2,000 years ago, they're lying to you. Where that particular group of people have moved into today and claimed that the God's people have come together again, that isn't the true place where everything happened. So that's how I would answer that question. We've been lied to about it. Question: I'm wondering about the connection between tattoo and face painting. Example: the Maori of New Zealand. No face paint, but very demonic looking tattoos. Yeah, I think it's all one in the same. Really, it's all attempts with different cultural, aesthetical, stylistic choices and ways. Every culture who does this practice is attempting to emulate something from the ancient past. They're trying to make themselves look like the Nephilim. So the Maori do the haka with the tongue sticking out, don't they? Here's a tribe in Papua New Guinea doing their own version, for example, on the screen now. But that tongue sticking out is identical to the way Medusa looks in most of her images, who's a prime example of a hybrid. Here's Medusa currently on the screen actually. So this is actually on the chest of a piece of Greek pottery art of Athena, and this is the head of Medusa, the Gorgon, the offspring of Echidna, funnily enough, the serpent hybrid human. This is a Nephilim creature here. This is a Nephilim offspring. And look, they look like clowns and they have the tongue sticking out. The Maori do their own version of trying to look like this. This is an African attempt of trying to emulate the Nephilim with elongated skull caps, red hair there, tuft on the forehead, psychedelic patterns on the skin, wide, accentuating the teeth, making the eyes look bulging and wider. Here's the Kratos of Portugal. This is a representation of the demons or the devils of the spirits. This is the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim. Psychedelic coloured patterns like serpent skin, hairy as well, with sharp angular features. Every culture has their own way of doing it, and even in the modern music industry today, like you can see on the screen, this is a way of channeling those spirits for fame and fortune. It's the method used, just a very overt way of doing it. Here's a carnival of Basler Fastnacht in Basel, in Switzerland, I believe, and they do this festival where they dress like clowns. Here's the Maori sticking out their tongue on the screen right now. They're trying to imitate and be the same as the Gorgon you just saw earlier. You know, it's all the same. It's just different cultures' ways of representing the same thing. And that's kind of what I would say on that, to be honest. New Zealand just has their own style. They have their own way of doing it. Here's another example in the North Americas. Got some Japanese examples. Here we have these the masks in where are these from? I think these are Africa. Here's India, South America, in Africa again. This is in Bulgaria. This is the Batibola of Rio. Here's the Basler Fastnach again. Wild red hair, white skin, huge mouth, big bulging nose. This is the Lazaros, which is next to the Kratos in Portugal. This is their version. And here we're back into India again. And here's a modern day iteration through the Western culture of mimicking these practices and applying them into modern media of the day, which was the circus or the theatre. And here's in Africa an ancestor spirit worship version on stilts, just as we see today in circuses as well, clowns on stilts. This is where they got it all from. They borrowed it from these ancestor spirit culture worship tribes, and they're trying to represent the spirits. So what they do in Bulgaria here is not any different from what was happening here in Africa, as you can see on the screen. It's just their version of doing the exact same thing. This is actually interesting. This is a Korean Madang shaman. Now, the Madangs are kind of social pariahs and outcasts. They make their living by being hired by people to come and do a specific ritual. And people take it very seriously. And these rituals, they hire a madang to come to their house, do a specific dance. And this ritual would require the madang to stab themselves and cut themselves with knives to show that they've truly been possessed by the spirit, because they would not be able to be cut or stabbed. Like it was, and to show that it's a sharp blade, but they will run it against the skin and they wouldn't get cut. And this would prove to the client who paid for them to be there that they have the spirit within them. And once they've proved that, the people who paid to get the shaman in would then communicate with the spirit through the shaman who is channeling it in order to gain information, knowledge, wisdom, advice on how to improve their household or get wealth or something like that. And that's what these madangs do. And they wear this hat, this wide-brimmed hat, not dissimilar from the hat man or the ringleader of a circus, for example. It's just a different cultural, stylistic way of doing the exact same thing. A lot of shamans wear a round, tall top hat style thing in different cultures, just with obviously different styles. But this hat is basically a channeling tool. It's like a funnel, in a way, to get the spirit to enter into the body. And you have to do these specific weird rituals with chants and sacrifices and meat offerings of money or whatever to get the spirits to enter them. I think it's a bit of a show, it's a bit of theatre, to be honest. I think the spirit could enter them without all the pomp and circumstance, but they include the pomp and circumstance to give the human the illusion they have some kind of control, you know. Anyway, the funny thing is, the Madangs have an interesting backstory. You can only become a Madang if you've experienced some kind of horrific trauma, okay? And all Madangs say they didn't intend or want to be one. They kind of became compatible with spirits after an enormous, horrible, heart-wrenching tragedy befell them. The loss of a child or a loved one, or being witness to a village murder or something. Just something horrible and traumatic happens, and then suddenly these people who went through that trauma can start seeing spirits and communicating with spirits. Okay, and from that trauma-based mind control event, they end up being persuaded by the spirits that see them to become madangs, which are professional channelers of demons, shamans. So this is Korean shamanism. This is how it works. Um, yeah, fascinating. But all cultures have these same things, something similar to that. Or shamanistic based cultures anyway. They have their own version of that hat man. This is actually funnily what you're seeing here are the Asuras and the Raksha demons of Thailand, which is of a Hindu mythology, and they adorn the temples as protectors, or on the outside or the inside. But this is where we get the first clown from. These are the costumes and makeup designs which were modelled onto the first early clowns of the 18th century, of the 19th century, should I say? And this inspiration was brought over from India to England onto the theatres to dress the clown. And you can see the outfits are identical to the early clown outfits as well. They actually did look like that, what you're seeing here, these ordained patterns with the white makeup and the multicolored patterns around the eyes and everything. This is what the Nephilim would have looked like. This is a human mixed with a fiery flying seraphim angel. This is what they would have looked like. This is again Eastern Europe, or doing the same thing again. But a lot of these Eastern Europe countries believe they dress like the things to ward them off, keep them at bay. It's called apotropaic. They're an apotropaic culture. They believe you dress like demons to scare away demons, but I think it's foolishness to believe that. Nowhere else believes that. The culture in India that does this doesn't believe they're scaring them away. It believes they're channeling them when they put on these masks. So why would it be any different here? It wouldn't be. Intent doesn't matter on this occasion. And here's Huggy Wuggy. It's for the kids. Am I right? But it's the same thing. You know, it's the same thing as this. Huggy Wuggy is just a stylized version of these creatures. And so's this. This is a stylized version, a Western stylized version of this creature here. They're all the same. They all have the same roots, alright? Even Monsters Inc. is getting in on it, and Monsters Inc. is full of symbolism to do with all this stuff. You know, and they take that stylistic aesthetic and apply it into all sorts of media. Here's Venom, and it's modeled after serpentine features. That's what it all comes down to. Veneration of the serpent. Here's the Shriners, one of the pins. The Shriners love the clowns. They're obsessed with clowns because they work with them. And they're always popularizing the image of a clown with every new reboot of some clown related media of some kind. Like It, for example. And here's another example of a Rakshasa demon of India tearing a guy apart with that big wide grin, smile, and fiery red hair and pale white skin. Again, another Africa ancestor spirit worship culture. Another Indian version with polka dots. This is a dance in Africa. Back to the Basil of Fasnach. This one's interesting. This is Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka's full of it. Here's a specific demon which causes illness when it comes around, when it looks like a quintessential Nephilim clown. And here's Australia. And this is the Wandjina of Australia rock art paintings of the Kimberley region. They believe the Wandjina were the offspring rain gods of the rainbow serpents from the sky, and they came and brought rain with them wherever they went. They were thunder gods. They controlled the weather with their minds, and they look like clowns. Through and through, 100% look like a clown. It's ridiculous. So I made this comparison here to show the obvious connection. But these are basically just the Australians' version of the same creatures I've just showed you earlier, the Nephilim. You know, the offspring of rainbow serpents. You know, the offspring of the seraphim angels. It's the same story, just with their own cultural, stylistic, aesthetic, shall we say. Yeah, I've got loads of these. I've been compiling these for a while, to be honest, and they're fun to look at, you know, and very eye-opening. Everyone's in on this. Every culture has their own version of this. It's kind of ridiculous how deep it actually goes, to be honest. Um, all right, guys. Anyone got any other questions? Anyone? The chat's kind of got away from me. So if you want to pose your questions, I'm looking at the chat live now. If you want to pop anything, if you want to know my opinion on anything in particular. It appears the first generation Nephilim, says Chaos Elite 33, which is one hell of a name, by the way. Very sus. Um, the first generation Nephilim pre flood would have been way more powerful, larger than the later post flood ones. Also, their DNA can dilute over time, so I believe some odd mutations we see. Yeah, they got smaller with each iteration, that's for sure. The OG original Nephilim were enormous. Size of mountains, I think many of them got to. They were actually just huge. Um, your photo compilation is very helpful. Oh, brilliant. It's just a rolling slideshow I created. I've got about 300 to 500 images, something like that. And it just rolls through them all as I speak, which is handy. A lot of them are repeats of the same cultures, though. But I tried to keep it across the modern age, all through media, across the ancient cultures. It's a mix of paintings, sculptures, rock artwork, you know, depictions, more modern renditions, cultural styles and rituals. Everything that evokes the clown is kind of there. Or examples of cultures evoking the clown is there. I'm not trying to evoke the clown. I'm just trying to expose the methods that they use here. So don't get my words mixed up. Question: will you have Gary back on? I know he believes we're in the fig tree generation, but maybe you could introduce these thoughts to him. Look, me and Gary, we talk about Nephilim history. I don't think I'm going to be getting into biblical theology with him in terms of end times eschatology. I don't. I just don't feel like we have that kind of relationship, and I don't really want to argue with him about it. You know, it's not. I just don't feel like that's the kind of working relationship me and Gary have. I've had him on twice. we like talking about the Nephilim and the history. I think I would stick to that. There are plenty of other people out there who might want to argue about that kind of stuff with him. But I'm happy just to keep it about the Nephilim with Gary personally. And I'm sure there are plenty of people out there sharing this stuff with Gary already. I just don't feel called to do that specifically. I make my videos about it. People can watch them if they want, but I'm not out there to convince people live on TV, on YouTube, or do any of that kind of stuff. Um, those clowns from each area are the demonic side of the spectrum, aren't they, Paul? Yes, Plato, they are. Um, Ross Lupton, why do you think I started to see reptilian-like eyes everywhere when I was on acid once? My subconscious acting out from years of research? Or would it be the Nephilim? Probably a little bit of this and a little bit of that. It's possible you were seeing the spirits within people manifest physically through slit eyes, but I'm always dubious about that kind of stuff. I don't really know. It could have been your imagination playing with you. It could have been, but I'm always open to it being a literal manifestation. But who knows? I'm afraid I couldn't answer that for you. Um, Gary Wayne, I believe, is there to push the historical narrative. Believe what you have been told about past history. Look, Gary's not a shill. Okay, I've talked to the guy plenty of times. He's just a perfectly normal, humble guy who's doing his research on something he's very passionate about, and he shares his work with people. Okay, and he's going to have differing opinions. Not everybody has the same worldview on eschatology. They don't, okay? I don't think he's trying to purposefully push a historical narrative to deceive people. And to be honest, I'm getting pretty sick of all this pointing fingers at everybody's a shill attitude that seems to be rising up lately in the community. I remember in like 2015 and 16, this was happening a lot. The shill hunting came out. The shill inquisition of the great shill inquisition of 2015 in the conspiracy world, And I feel like that attitude is rising up again right now. We're going full circle. And I think the accuser spirit is coming out of a lot of people lately, and everyone's pointing fingers saying they're a shill and they're a shill, and everybody who doesn't agree with me is a shill. And it's kind of, listen, we're all just human beings trying our best to piece together the truth from our own perspectives and experiences and understandings. Just because people have differing opinions doesn't necessarily make them shills. Okay. If I go by the philosophy, and I always have, it's best to assume ignorance before malevolence. Okay. Just because they don't have the same view as you, even if you know you're 100% correct about something and they're saying the opposite, maybe they just don't know what you know. Okay. That doesn't mean they're out to deceive and evil. Maybe they just lack knowledge. And I think a lot of people need to be a bit more forgiving. I think, especially in our culture, no good comes from pointing fingers. It really doesn't. And I remember in the early days when I first started on YouTube, like a decade ago, when I was a smaller channel. Even I think it comes with the territory, because obviously conspiracy can make you a bit paranoid, right? And we know there are people out there intentionally trying to deceive us. We know that, so we're kind of on edge in the beginning, looking for them around under every rock, paranoid that we're being lied to by evil shills out there to deceive, and we're trying to find who's trying to deceive us and pointing out and exposing people and all this type of stuff. And I was kind of there at the beginning. I can get it, I made a few expose videos myself about unsavory characters I thought were out there to deceive us, and it brought me nothing but pain and misery to do it first of all. I had no real evidence for my claims other than it was a gut feeling or something like that, and I learned years ago that it's best not to do that, especially as a content creator. Look, if you're passionate about a subject, make work on that subject, okay, and just focus on your own stuff and trust your audience to take or leave the good or the bad, or what they need from your information. But stop, but don't make videos about other people who make videos. That's not real content in my eyes. That doesn't educate anybody about anything really. Okay, and that's it really. I've always taken the philosophy of focus on what you want to do, let your audience take what they want from you, let other people do what they're going to do. Okay, and trust that the audience out there will know what to take or not to take from them too. That's kind of how I've always come at it. And I get a lot of people on my channel with different views and different levels of understandings and different expertise in different areas. I like to interview a broad spectrum of people. I've not always had Christians on my channel either. It depends, And if I think they've done great work on something in particular, I'll get them on to share it. I had Cryptid Candy on my channel not that long ago, and he's not a religious guy. He's not in any way, shape, or form, but he did a fantastic breakdown and expose on people who use Benadryl to contact the Hatman entity. And I was fascinated by it, people who use that particular chemical in order to have delusional trips, and delirium. And I got him on and I had him on for a good 2 hours just to share all of his work and break it down for us. And it was fantastic. And that's how we do it. Um, and I get people with different maybe theologies or foundations for their belief in Christianity on here as well. And I find that those are the ones that cause the most controversy for people. And those are the ones I get the most hate for. And it's kind of why? Why aren't they allowed to share their view? I mean, we can trust that our audience can take or leave whatever they say. We don't have to tacitly agree with each other. But if they've done great work in let's say, historical research, we should take it. Take it for what it is and add it to a repertoire. And that's kind of what I do. And you know, it's kind of like this guilt by association thing I see quite a lot everywhere. And a lot of people accuse me, therefore, of being some kind of controlled opposition shill because I talk to somebody else who they also believe must be a controlled opposition shill because they don't have the same theology as them or something. And it's kind of like, we're literally just human beings who like to think and talk with each other and share that conversation. We're just people. And I would hesitate to call anybody a shill because I get accused of it and I know I'm not. Do you get what I mean? Like, and it's kind of, I think it just comes with the territory when the channel gets a bit bigger. It comes with this, and it's kind of I wouldn't dream of accusing anybody right now of being a shill. I mean, some people perhaps really do expose themselves to being a bit corrupt by their words and actions, and so be it. But I don't have to accuse them of malevolence necessarily or intentional shillery just because they do something particularly unsavory or human, even. Because we know what people can be like. I don't know. That's kind of what I've noticed, and it's a shame that the conspiracy culture is going that way. Um, but I don't know. I've seen it all over the past decade. I shouldn't be shocked because it's always just going to happen, isn't it? I don't think there's anything we can do to stop it. But it's a shame. I'm not going to get involved anyway. Anybody, I'm still going to do my thing, but it's sad because I get emails from people, and these strangers email me thinking they can tell me who I can and cannot have on my own channel, and I just don't respond to those people because I would have nothing nice to say if I tried. Sometimes I get this response in my head and I think to myself, okay, it's best just delete that, just to delete that and not respond at all. If you've got nothing nice to say, just don't say anything at all. And it irks me the wrong way, I will say, when people think they have the right to tell me who I can and cannot talk to. Like, that is the highest level of hubris. And I don't humor it. Let's put it that way. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to catch up to the chat. Looks like it's been popping away there. Lacey Lavender, good to see you. What are you saying? They didn't like what I was saying, but I believe they're gatekeepers. Okay, so there we go. We're accusing people of being gatekeepers and so forth. Who knows though? Do we truly know? Do we truly know? I don't know I don't even know who you're talking about. I'm just saying. Uh, you're above mudslinging, Paul, in the sense you have genuine information and content. No sense stooping would make you look less, perhaps. Yeah, it's. I guess so. Yeah, yeah. You know, again, I don't want to say anything against anybody. I don't know the motives why people choose to shill hunt necessarily. I don't want to say I know the motives behind it. I don't. I don't. A lot of people would theorize. I guess is what you were hinting at there, that they don't have anything else to do or say, and it can be quite drama can be quite lucrative. Perhaps it brings views. People love drama, and maybe that gets clicks, and maybe that's the motivation really for why people want to stir things up. I don't know, but it's not something I'm interested in doing. But again, I don't know. I don't know people's motivations necessarily as to why they choose to do those type of things. I don't want to assume, because I don't know. But we can always speculate on multiple reasons why somebody would choose to do that. This is turning into a clown show, though. What's turning into a clown show, Johnny Cool? Do you want to be a bit more specific? I mean, I've been going for an hour 40. I might go for 20 more minutes here. I'm just having a conversation with you guys now. If anyone wants to say anything in the chat, just let me know, and we'll have a bit of a back and forth. Any more questions? Um, what's that about Billikens? Billiken equals Helican connection. Yeah, well, Billikens was said to be created by a art teacher in like the 1920s or something like that in America, um, as a symbol for good luck and fortune, kind of modeled after Bes, which was the Egyptian god of good luck and fortune and other things, the protector of the household, the killer of snakes and things like that. But Bes was also like a little fat midget man, with a pot belly, a lot like Billykins is like a dwarfish, pot-bellied, smiling, grinning man, just like Bes, the god of Egypt. So I think Billykins is mainly modelled after Besit, to be honest. It seems that way, but it's used as a good luck charm in the similar sense by the Order of the Jesters, who use it as their logo. So Billykins seems to be like a perverted, bastardized version with an erect phallus and a big wide grin of Bess of Egypt. Um, so I don't think there's any other connection there other than the Egyptian god connection. And that's all I've really figured out so far. I know the Japanese kind of got really obsessed. Was it the Korean? No, it was the Japanese got really obsessed with it, and they have their own Billiken statue in a famous tower in Tokyo, which people rub its feet for good luck today. Even today, they adopted this foreign god. It was very, very bizarre. Um, do you believe all Nephilim look like clowns? What about those like Hercules or Apollo? And what do you find different from Rephaim and Nephilim? That's a good point. I mean, I think the original OG Nephilim did look like clowns, yes. The ones that were the offspring of fiery flying serpents who mated with the daughters of Cain, who perhaps had incredibly pale white skin. I think later iterations. I mean, I think the later pantheons, which came after the early pantheons. So obviously the pantheon of Greek gods, for example, Zeus and his pantheon. They came after Kronos, didn't they? They destroyed the old gods and took over as the new gods after a great war, didn't they? And it's possible these later iterations um, were something else, not necessarily like Hercules, for example, which is a half human, half hybrid. It's possibly a mythologized version of the original incursion, and that Hercules himself wasn't actually like a character as we'd actually know it, more like a comic book or superhero story. So he looked more human than perhaps what the Nephilim really looked like in the stylized versions. Because there did seem to be this. We talk about it. They're called parent gods and offspring gods. Gary Wayne talked about it in the last talk I had with him. So watch that talk if you're interested. But there is a distinction. There's these two classes. There's the old gods and the new gods. The parent gods and the offspring gods. And it seems like the offspring gods in the Greek mythology would have been the children of the original. So that means Hercules wouldn't have been a true Nephilim. He would have been the son of a Nephilim. Do you get what I mean? So he would have been a diluted version of the original. It would have looked very different. It gets very complicated. I don't think all Nephilim necessarily looked like clowns, as we would call them. I think just like there's much variation between all serpents and reptiles and amphibians and insects in the animal kingdom. I think many of the Nephilim would have varied greatly in the ways they looked. What I'm saying is a modern day clown, in a Western sense, is a caricature of ancestor spirit worship costumes worn by people to channel the spirits of the Nephilim. So it's actually a very complicated theory. I know how that sounds. It sounds a bit convoluted. But the Western image of a clown is a cartoon stylized version or mimic or attempt to amalgamize and kind of condense or distill Nephilim features into a caricatured cartoon image. Do you get what I mean? So it's not that they look like clowns exactly, it's that clowns are modeled after Nephilim traits. That's what I'm trying to say. It's so, I think yeah, I know. I'm not trying to. That's what my theory actually is, but I don't. I feel like clowns look like Nephilim doesn't sound as good as the Nephilim look like clowns. So it doesn't quite roll off the tongue as much. And my wife has told me your theory is called the wrong thing, Paul. You should be calling your theory clowns look like Nephilim. Okay. But I'm sticking by my guns on this one. The Nephilim look like clowns sounds cooler. Alright, so I'm sticking to that. Right, guys, I think I've come up to the 2 hour mark now. It might be a good time to leave. I'm just going to let you know, like I said, if you're new to the chat right now, guys, I got quite a few people in here. I do now have Rumble, and I am in the process of transferring all of my back catalogue of like 350 videos onto Rumble. I think I've got like 100 up there right now. I'm a third of the way through it. But I am diversifying the platforms I am on in order to have fail safes in case any of them do get torn away. So please consider going over to Rumble if you've got an account and subscribing over there as well. I would really appreciate that. Again, it's just a good backup to have. It's just sensible. It's the right thing to do in this particular climate of information, you know. So if you are interested, go over to Rumble and subscribe to that channel, please. Let me just refresh and see if anyone else is subscribed in the meantime. 20 people, brilliant. There we go. I got a nice notification. Yeah, so people have been joining, which is wonderful. But go please and sign up to Rumble and just press follow in the top corner, and you'll always have a backup for my work. I'm just going to be loading up whenever I can more and more videos on here. And it's once my entire back catalogue is on here, any new upload to YouTube will also be going on to Rumble as well. From then on, it'll all stay up to date. So if you don't like using YouTube, you can go watch my work on there instead as an alternative backup. So please go and check that out. I would really appreciate that, guys. That would be great. Also, if you haven't already, maybe consider signing up to Patreon. I do have extra content on there, some extra videos. If I just quickly bring it up here and show you guys. Got notifications coming through there. Yeah, so as you can see, I've got loads of extra content on here as well. If I go to my page, if it takes a while to load. There we go. So what I tend to do whenever I talk with people, I do a little after show with them, and we talk about topics we didn't actually discuss in the show, like this one here. I'm talking with George Hobbs of the Fact Hunter podcast, and we discussed the Truther movement and some of the weird stuff he's seen going on behind the scenes. It's quite interesting, a bit of a meta commentary. Here's me talking with Joe over at JT Follows JC. This is just before him and Alpha Talks had our conversation on the Millennial Reign. We had a bit of a preamble for 20 minutes. It's a bit of fun. Check that out. Same here with me, an after show chat with Vicky Joy Anderson. It went on for an hour, and we're talking about all sorts of topics we didn't talk about in the live show, so you can go and check that out too. There's me with Theron from Toad House having a bit of an after show chat for 40 minutes. Same with Shelley there as well from There's No Place Like Home. And yeah, that's generally what I tend to. There's a big back catalogue there. There's me and Lloyd talking about his experience working in security, which is quite interesting, and how to tell when someone's lying and deceiving, and how our brain processes information during fight or flight situations. A really interesting conversation. Yeah, there's a back catalogue here. There's loads of stuff. That video is not on YouTube for obvious reasons. If you go and check it out on Patreon instead. Yeah, so I always post things on here. That's a video not available on YouTube as well because of censorship. And it goes back for a long time, guys. A lot of history on here, a lot of extra content, and I'm always posting extra things on here as well on a regular basis. So if you do want to support me, it's just $5 a month, gets you access to everything, and I really would appreciate that, guys. Like I said, these are my fail safes, so I can keep supporting my family and paying the bills if anything does go wrong or just collapses underneath me. I am still writing the book, as you can see here. I am many chapters in, well, about 150 pages through this thing. What's my word count now? Let's have a look. Tools, word count. What am I on? I'm on 80,000 words. So I've written 8 dissertations so far. It just keeps going, and I'm about halfway through, so it's going to be a big one. But the book's coming along nicely. Got some stuff here on clown serial killers and murderers I'm working on as well. Yeah, it's coming along nicely. It's turning into a big, long, thick tome. But I'm getting through right now all the stuff about the clown makeup and the costume and the nuances and the motifs and how they're all related to the Nephilim currently is what I'm writing. And I'm about to start a chapter on mimes and jesters, and then we're going to talk about the circus, and that's that chapter finished. I've got a chapter designated to the Hatman and the Ringmaster, and then to sacred clowns like the Heyoka tribes and all the ones that everyone talks about all the time. And a lot of stuff about, how play and ritual is involved with demon veneration and how it's all theatre and all sorts of weird things going on. Then we'll talk about DMT jesters. So section 2 is actually almost finished. And then it'll be section 3, clown aesthetics in folk traditions and artwork. And then all those images you've been seeing on the screen, I'll be going through all those cultures and explaining why they do what they do and why they dress the way they dress and what their intentions are and how they all dress like clowns. And then section 4 is all the pop culture stuff, which I have already started writing a few things on because I'm going to make videos based on these writings you see here. I've already made this one, the Multicolored Collective. That video already exists, and that's basically the script for that video. I've just put in there as a placeholder, which I'll expand upon. Film and TV, the music industry, and then that's the book done. I'll write some conclusions. So the book's coming along quite quick. If you want to support that, there is a GoFundMe for the Nephilim Look Like Clowns. I don't need to sign in to show you that. So let me just Nephilim Clowns GoFundMe is all you need to type in. There's the book project. And there we go. You can go to the GoFundMe and you can help support the book by adding donations on there. £100 donations get you a free signed copy of the book. Once published by myself, I will mail it to you. You just have to email me your address. I have a file where I put that address next to your name with your donation amount. You can be anonymous if you wish, but if you don't be anonymous, your name goes in the book as a special thank you. But any amount will get you a special thank you. But if you donate £100 or more, it's a signed copy of the book sent to you by myself personally once published. So it's a pre-order system there if you're interested as well, guys. The support's been overwhelming. I think I've had about 65 pre-orders already, which is brilliant, and other donations on top of that as well. So people are really showing support for this project, and I'm humbled and I'm very thankful for the support I've had so far. I am considering capping pre-orders once I reach 10,000. So after that, pre-orders are done, because it is a lot. I'll probably reach maybe 70 by that point, or 75 or something, and then I'm going to stop. Just because the workload is getting really big, and the costs of obviously buying and sending them out is going to get larger as well. So if you do want to get in there, I suggest you maybe consider getting it done sooner rather than later. Because I do think once I hit the 10,000, I'm not going to take any more pre-orders. I think it would be sensible to do it that way. So yeah, there you go, guys. Just a few announcements at the end there if you're interested. Thank you very much for your support there. Thanks for the super chats at the end there, guys. I've just seen them. Hey Paul, thanks for all the great material, says Tapio. Ever think about interviewing Jonathan Pajot? He's an Orthodox Christian and talks a lot about Nephilim. Yeah, maybe. I know he talks a lot with oh, what's his name? The guy, the other Calvinist Christian who got obsessed with Jordan Peterson. What's his name? I know his name. Is he called Paul? I can't, sorry. Yeah, I know of Jonathan Pajot. Maybe if he would be willing to talk with me. I'm not sure if he would be. He seems more of the academic type. Maybe he wouldn't take me seriously enough to talk with me. Maybe when the book's published, he might. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he'll take me a bit more seriously once he sees that I actually, write books. Actually, and use references. It might take me a bit more seriously. Um, and yeah, Boxer knows best. Thanks for that as well. I really appreciate the donations. Obviously, every little helps in it. And at the end of the day, this part. I'm self-employed, so this is part of my work, my job as well. So I do really appreciate any public support at all. Is how I keep the lights on. So I do appreciate it. But yeah, guys, I'm gonna leave it there. I've gone over 2 hours now. Thanks for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this random Q&A session. And as always, I will be back on the weekend with more live shows. I've got some special guests coming on the weekend. We have a nice little back and forth. Um, and I've got plenty more videos being released throughout the week as well. So thank you very much. And as always, God bless.